Okay, the question we have today is from Mish, and it's quite long, lots of delicious context, so let's dive in. I'm thinking of holding a monthly free copywriting workshop. I've heard time and time again how much value people get from these workshops, where I guide them through a very specific process that helps them bring way more joy and creativity to something that still gives their reader what they need to feel closer to being able to decide on their offer. I've been historically shit at list growth, and ideally this would result in list growth. I guess my question is twofold. Is there anything I need to be aware of or thinking about when running this as a monthly pitch free thing? Like, whoa, Bessie, people might devalue this group or real time with you. And question two, what are your thoughts on what I need to have in place to make this a meaningful list growth activity? I'm great at sharing with my email list and recommitting to being more present on social media. Any other tactics beyond that come to mind?
Actually, one of the reasons I wanted to skip to this question, aside from it being MFFG, is because this was one when I read it, I really wanted some context. And like now we can get some. So my question is, what purpose does this serve in your ecosystem? Like what would it be doing? It sounds like something you've done before, but it hasn't delivered maybe what you were hoping it would deliver for you, but it's delivered for the people that partake. So I guess what is it that you're doing and what is it tied to? Do you know, Kirsty?
Mish is here. So here we go. Answer from Mish. She says it would lead to my group programs like Love Your Emails.
Okay, so are they getting a taste then of what they would get in Love Your Emails? Is this sort of like this is the kind of thing that we do and you're getting a sample of that and you get more? Yep, getting a very good taste. Okay, cool. So from a list build point of view, you wouldn't want to just be offering this obviously to people on your list. And I don't think it devalues you at all.
I actually have one more question for you, Mish. Sorry, I'm really putting you on the spot here. Curious, what has, because I know that these workshops have gone down so well and people have got so much out of them. And I know that sometimes they haven't converted as well as you would have liked to the paid offer sitting behind them. So I'm wondering, what are your insights on what's happened there? As I'm just curious as to whether it's possible people feel like they get enough from these workshops that they don't need more from you, or whether you think there's a disconnect between offering a free thing that then leads into a high price tag program. I'm just curious around that. So any thoughts on that would be really helpful. And then I promise that Amy and I will stop pestering you and we will actually provide some thoughts and insight.
Or a free thing to a high code. Okay, so it doesn't have to be. So the idea is you're willing to be more present on social media and you want a list build. So there's already the assumption that you know that list building is how you nurture people and talk to them over time and get them into your programs. So the content is always about the outcome of these programs. So if you're learning to love your emails and write your emails, what do emails do for you ultimately? And why should you love them? And why should you want to write them? And why should you want to get damn good at this? And I could get into more specifically about how like structure creating that content, but that all that content brings people to your list, and then on your list you're offering every month you're promoting, maybe you're promoting it every week, but every month you're holding this free workshop so that the social media content drives them to your list drives them to this free event. The free event talks about love your emails, but and they may or may not be ready to buy, but ideally as you're cycling more people through and you're putting out this content that's making people go, this makes so much sense to me. Now you've got a whole ecosystem to bring people in that doesn't feel so scattershot.
The really key thing there, maybe there are 2 points. It's that the free workshop is never positioned as the end goal or end offer, right? It's a step on the path to getting the things that you're talking about. That's
Yes.
critical. I also think the second thing there is just remembering the importance of this, like, yes, as a lead magnet or a list growth tool, but also as a nurture tool. And I think within that, implicit is the message that whenever you're list building, yes, of course, it's important to think about the ways in which you are enticing people onto your list, but it is equally, if not more important, to consider what's waiting for them once they're there, because it is pointless to invite people into a space that doesn't then continue to nurture them. And Mish, I know that you're not going to do this, but just for anyone else listening who's sort of like, I need to build my list. Yes, think about, the lead magnets, but also think about what's happening then behind them, what's waiting for someone once they step into your world, into your ecosystem.
Because what she says is, anything I need to be aware of, I'm running this as a monthly pitch-free thing. And that is, you don't have to pitch, but you can keep referencing. Like in Love Your Emails, this is how we do this, and this is why we do that, and this is, so you're always referring to it, so people are hearing it, and you're getting this name recognition and piquing people's curiosity. And theoretically, I mean, ideally, theoretically, as more and more people come in, these are people who are ideal candidates for this offer. What we don't know is when, right? Is it yesterday with urgency? Is it next month because they're ready? Is it next year because that's how it falls? But I mean, the whole idea with something like this is that you bring in enough people that there's always people at some stage of readiness. The frustrating thing is when you start, there's fewer people as you're building up this, people talk about it as kind of a flywheel. As you're building that up, it can feel a little sticky and like there's not movement because you're not necessarily moving as many people into a paid offer as you want to. But if you do it and you do it consistently, you'll be blown away by what you'll be blown away by is probably it'll be the people who will sign up and pay you a lot of money, or the people who never showed up for the thing, but they know you do the thing and they watch. And I have so many people who are consistent on social media who they end up selling to are the lurkers and the watchers. And that's not to say that people who participate won't become customers and clients. It's fascinating to me. And when I looked back at like my LinkedIn effort and what it drove in terms of real revenue and who it drove it with, there were people that I didn't know were following me, who showed up and became very loyal clients and people I've worked with over a long time. So that's my note of
Yeah.
encouragement for like, don't worry if it doesn't look the way you want it to look in the first month or three.
Yes, and thank you too, because you jogged my thought when you mentioned that, yes, no pitch is great, but also, reference the program, drop the name. Also think about other ways in which the workshop itself can act as an invitation into the perspective shift that your program offers. Because I think, again, being able to display how you're thinking in a real-time exchange is a great way to open people's minds to the curiosity of possibility. Like, what's possible if I go further down this path, this approach with this person, or, with this framework, whatever that looks like. And as another just thing to throw in here too, so I went through a phase, I think it was actually between my two kids, where I was doing relatively regular free no pitch workshops. They were great and they drove so many purchases of different offers. I just ran my first $0 zero pitch workshop like last week that I've run for years. And I was strategic with that in that it was hosted inside of Circle, which is where my paid offer sits. And again, there was no pitch inside the workshop, and it's genuinely free. And, it's there for people to use at will, regardless of whether they end up one day joining my program or not. But because they're now inside of that space, inside of Circle, there've been a few hurdles that have been knocked out if they do decide one day that it will be a good offer for them. They've already got an account. They already have access to my course area, so they can see all the content. They can't access it, but they can see what's in there. And if they try and click on anything, they get directed to a short little sales page about the offer. So there's proximity in there so that if they get curious about what I actually do or what it would be like to work with me in a paid way, like they're already in that right space. So I would encourage you, Mish, and anyone else thinking about doing something similar, to think about, Amy, you're laughing at me, to just think about how this can serve your ecosystem in a nice way.
I'm laughing at you because you're such a good marketer. You are. I mean, you like just time and time again, it's like you just blow me away. It's like you always you just are so thorough and so thoughtful in what you do. I mean, and it's just smart. It's just really, really smart. You've brought them into your ecosystem. I mean, and that's such a great way to sell without selling. And just be clear, there's nothing wrong with selling. I like sales, is matching need with solution. I mean, it's not like, look at this and you can get this and get that and get it for this today and that tomorrow and fuck you very much. It's like, I mean, I think there's a lot of negativity around sales, but you're really good at it and you're just really genuine.
Sorry, two quick things. I feel exactly the same things about you. And second of all, my favorite Amy is always like skeezy salesman Amy. I love when you do that Brooklyn voice. Get like borderline creepy. Makes my day every time.
Open my raincoat on the one side. You need some watches. So there. So Mish, do you have any other questions as long as we have you here? And I will, while we're waiting to see if you do or not, I will share too in the show notes. I did an episode on the podcast Cubicle to CEO, and one of her requirements was you had to have a case study of something that you had done, and you had to have like numbers of how much revenue you drove from it. And I did a case study on my LinkedIn effort to get people to my newsletter, but what that resulted in revenue, because that's what ended up filling my masterminds. And that was not what I was selling at all. I mean, in the content per se, but when I looked at when people had joined and what they knew about me, and then what they ended up joining and buying from me, it was quite remarkable. So, and that might be helpful just in terms of seeing how that works, because some of it feels pretty silent, and if you're not looking at those metrics, it's easy to think it's easy to feel like you've lost a grip on what's happening, or like that there are clear results. I think it's a really good example of giving value for free turns into revenue.
Yes, and that's such a good episode too. I listened to that, P Dog, like last year, I think, maybe when it dropped. So good. So much good intel in there. And one more thought too, just on this last question here, any other tactics beyond that come to mind? I think one thing to just be very cognizant of as you go about creating content on social media to reach and engage new audience is remember that you are trying to reach fresh people. So don't be afraid to say the things you feel like you've already said 1,000 times. If it's stuff that's really resonant and that you know really helps you connect with your ideal prospects, like say it again, say it again, say it again, say it again, because again, you're going to be trying to be reaching new people, starting new conversations. And I would even suggest like going back and mining your most successful emails. I did that the other day and I was like, oh, I actually write some really good stuff. Like, why am I not using this in more places, more of the time? So I'm sure you already have some absolute gems waiting for you. And I actually think it's a good way to get fired up about your ideas and what you offer, just to actually go back and look through some of your existing stuff. And that's a tip for anyone too.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And sitting side by side with that is, don't worry about like, but do they know this already? Or have they heard this? Like, I guess what you're saying, have they heard it from me already? Because it doesn't matter what they know, it matters what they know you know. Right. And that's a really important point, because I think we sometimes get hung up in the like, is this too basic? And I think basic is really, really good. I mean, we all have the curse of knowledge, and you don't know what you know, and you don't know how much you know. And so somehow unpacking that, and, like talking about things that seem so basic to you, like why people make decisions and how they make decisions, and what email can really do for you in the end, and how it works, and how there's so many different types, and, which will seem to you like, well, everybody knows that, but they don't. So on that fine note, let's just see if we have anything. Love that. Thank you, you too. Thank you. Thank you for letting us pick this apart and talk at you and ask you for questions and put you on the sort of virtual spot. So
Thank you for such a good question, Mish, and thank you for also playing with us in terms of responding to us, even though we really just like threw you in the deep end there. If you have a question that you would like answered on a future episode, head over to businessbadass.co and you'll find the question submission form waiting for you there. Thanks for listening.
thanks so much. Catch you next time.